Good morning, everyone. We live in an era that pretty much anything is possible, innovative-wise. I think the real question is, should we do it? Today, I'm going to talk to you about why Scotia is in pursuit of doing frictionless banking. So right now, we're really trying to adapt to the digital world. If you walk on the street, you notice everybody's face is in their devices. They're either texting somebody, they're on their Facebook, Twitter, making reservations, recipes. Everybody's world is in their phone. I know because I run into them as I'm riding on the sidewalk. But we're really trying to make sure we're at where the customer is, which is primarily on their devices in a digital ecosystem. So innovation, we've always heard of innovation in technology. It's usually synonymous with it. We've also seen innovation in the entertainment industry, how Netflix disrupted video rentals. Now innovation's kind of moved to the unsexy. That's right, innovation's moved into the banks. And FinTech is the biggest investment that's going on right now because we have a lot to catch up to improve the customer experience. Not from just a business standpoint, but to really give those great experiences that they're getting to be accustomed with their other services. Just looking around the world of all the funding in FinTech last year, there was $36 billion in funding. VCs, 1,500 deals were closed. 40% of those focused on payments, 25% with other banking services. So the world is investing heavily into FinTech. And we live in an era now where we're not even, the banks are looking at FinTech. It's moving into software industries where it can be disruptive. And if we look at our new customers today, Amazon, Google, and Facebook are household names. Everybody hears about it. So we have a threat that these companies are going to start to offer financial services that are frictionless and can do that. And recently we did a survey with our customers to say, if one of these companies switched to started offering banking services, would you switch? And I love their honesty. 1 out of 3 said, yeah, they would consider switching. Where back just 6 or 7 years ago, nobody would think to put their banking on Facebook. But we're moving to customers that are more risk accepting than our previous customers of other generations. And then look at globally what's happening in FinTech and financial, which, has one of the largest IPOs in history. They're getting 432 million unique visits. They're valued at 60 billion US, and they grew like 60% just last year. And we can only think, okay, they're in China, that's okay. But they're going to more countries all the time, and they're moving. And I read an article recently, they're experimenting with face recognition for payments. So in KFCs in China, you can go up, place your meal, they give you your meal at the counter, you smile, and the payment's automatically done. Now, thankfully, you smile before you eat the meal because I don't know about all of you, but when I eat KFC, the last thing I think about doing is smiling. And really, it's just not about giving North American customers better experience. It's really FinTech for inclusion. There's a lot of underserviced countries out there that don't have formalized banking. So Peru is going through a major program right now, their government, to get more of their citizens into formal banking, because under 30% of them are. So we got the opportunity for a low-cost infrastructure to offer them formalized banking for the very first time, which is really kind of exciting to give somebody something that they wouldn't have otherwise had without digital. So why don't we just switch and fully go digital? Let's skip everything what we used to do. But we're a legacy company. We have a long tradition of serving our customers. So we really want to move to the new customers that are have a better appetite for risk, but we don't want to do it at the expense of alienating our existing customers. Thanks. that we've had a long relationship with, that have known the bank in their traditional ways. So how do we balance our old customers and the new customers? And if we think about it, it's not just a technology problem. Like the speaker before us, there's governance, we have regulatory compliance, we have risk and audit that we have to all figure out how we still do in a more agile and lean fashion. So we really need to disrupt responsibly. Everybody here is just disrupt. We want to disrupt, but we want to do it with responsibleness. So how do we do it? A couple of years ago, Brian Porter told the world in an announcement, Scotiabank will not only simply be a bank, rather we're a software company that offers financial services. He was inspired by many trips to Silicon Valley, where him and his fellow executives went to understand how all these tech companies are disrupting other industries and what their secret was to learn. And he came back and got to see and learn everything they did from a customer perspective and how to be agile and lean. And although, we're working on, we've done numerous changes, I'm going to talk about one of those changes that he did today. So he created this thing called the Digital Factory, which is a startup in the existing bank, where we tried to really kind of shock the culture by hiring a lot of new software, full stack engineers, design thinkers, data analysts, all rock stars in the industries that normally wouldn't work for a bank, but we rebranded it the Digital Factory. And when we interviewed some of our new hires, it's funny, they tell their friends they work at the Digital Factory. They tell their mom and dad they work at Scotiabank. So it was really good how it had a different branding. But bringing all that new insight to do things and that new excitement was great. And we started in Canada, but then we rolled out globally into Peru, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. Because if we want to be customer-centric, we want to have digital factories close to those type of customers so we can give them maybe unique experiences that maybe are different. But we also have the power to globally use each other for bigger initiatives that are common amongst everyone. So we're really trying to target the cultures what you wouldn't expect at a bank. Because when they recruited me, at first they came to recruit me at Scotiabank, and I'm like, I'm not going to work at a bank. I'm too cool for that. And when a guy in a wheelchair tells you they're too cool, that's something. But what I got to see, the culture they were aspiring was one of design thinking. And they were really open to change, right? They were really excited about going in an agile, lean, nimble way, bringing in outside advice from innovation like people in this room here to help us, get data-driven, really where we could learn and fail fast. Because usually at any large company, like we heard earlier, failing isn't something they wanted to brag about. But we had to change that culture. We quickly iterated on something, prototype, learned, and then either it worked and we pivoted or we made a mistake and moved on. But we got to do that instilled in the factory. Because we're really trying to be, where the bank traditionally would look from a business point of view, we're trying to look more at a customer view, because a customer is changing more rapidly than the business can keep up with. Because now with technology innovations and the way the world is, if we keep pursuit on the business, we'll always be behind. But like the companies in Silicon Valley, you keep an eye on the customer, then you can try to keep lockstep in them. And we've learned that it's not just asking them questions, because a customer doesn't know what they want until they know what they can get. We brought in real experts that can just kind of monitor what they do in their day-to-day finances, how they feel, what their emotions are, to build them something that they may not know they need or a problem that they don't know exists. And that's the approach we're taking as opposed to features and functionality. So it's not just redesigning the front-end gorgeous apps. We also have to think about a back-end infrastructure and how we rethink it. Let's think about it. We're still using mainframes from the 1970s. That was before the internet, before cellular and phones. Heck, it was still politically correct to call disabled people crippled. But we've all evolved since then, and we're rethinking the back end where it makes sense, where it has the most interaction points so we can deliver quicker. And really, it's like I said at the start of the talk, it's more about keeping pace where the customers are doing today for their day-to-day things. Just for an example, for me, I can call a special needs Uber that'll come on a click of a phone. On the way home, I can order a gluten-free meal to be delivered at my house when I get home. Or if I'm feeling ambitious and I want to cook, I can order a service where it'll give me the groceries, meal prep, and recipes, all by one click on the way home. And if we don't position to that kind of frictionless way of doing services, we as a financial institution run the risk about being our biggest friction point in our customers' lives. We got to be able to let them do things seamlessly and unconscious, so that way we can keep up with the way the world's around us. That's the battle. I'd like to share you a personal story of where innovation really is an enabler. Up to 5 or 6 years ago, if I wanted to go out, get a coffee, go for lunch, or go shopping, I couldn't because I had no way to get my wallet out to exchange money for anything or credit cards. In came Apple Pay. So for the first time in my life, I could completely go out on my own, tap my watch on a scanner, and buy things, and meet friends for a coffee, meet them for meals, go shopping, and to get out into the world and live. Because I want to leave you with this. Innovation isn't about just making customer experiences better. Sometimes about making them possible. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We might have some time for a couple questions if you're open to that.
Great.
So if there's any questions from the audience,
Yes.
Thank you for sharing the experience about the digital factory. Can you explain how the digital factory interacts with the mainframe teams that you have in Scotiabank?
That's a great question. What we try to do is get them to work within the Scrum teams and try to get them ahead of time so we can work hand in hand to really hand things over and build things in. We've also, using microservices, trying to build a middle layer where we can quickly have access to things without having to always go right to the back end. So we're trying to build a middle layer to prevent the need for always having to go right into the legacy system. It's great when someone holds their hand in the back and makes them run all over.
Sitting here, but here clear enough. Yeah. And thanks for the speech. My quick question is that for services that big enough, like financial services, that we cannot affordable for interruption for the service level that to the customers. So from your experience, what would you suggest that should we try intensive approach to switch to the new technology, more like the fashion technology this innovation, or more smooth and slow cut over to the new experience?
I think that's dependent on the industry you're in. We're in banking, so we don't want to disrupt customer service that well. So I would recommend doing a slow, well thought out approach and slowly switch things over. And you should only do it in the most high traffic areas and really look at areas that you're currently working on and start with there. If you tried to do big bang, it would be too much of a risk to change them all over at once.
Thank you so much. I can really see how innovation can make things really accessible, and I was inspired by, how the Apple Watch has really helped you. Do you see technology as being a way to make things a lot more accessible for people with disabilities?
Absolutely. I couldn't have been born in a better age, I guess, where, part of me wishes I was born in the future when all this technology existed already and I could easily do it. But I think I would lose the wow effect of going from something I couldn't previously do before to being enabling to do what I can do now. And that's what my passion is in the technology industry is it really levels out the playing field to really, minimize my disability. And Scotia, what I really enjoy is they have a high focus of building inclusion and accessibility in their products, from getting an empathy lab and from really focusing on it. Because I always like to say, we're all going to be disabled at some point. I just beat you to it. So if I can help you get the services you need or the accessibility in the products, you're more able to interact with them at the time.
Thank you. How much of a role would data and analytics play within your team, within the technology group? I know it's probably leveraged within other groups, but I was curious how much you use it for, the UX and the experience that you're moving forward.
We have the data analysts embedded in all the teams because we're moving to a culture of before we even build it, we want to know what we're measuring on. What's going to prove our hypothesis, what we're going to test with. Did we do the feature? What's the drop-off rate? What are all those things? So we have data analytics embedded in each team. So that way, before we kick off an initiative, we want to know what are the things we can measure to decide whether it's successful or not. One more question? Before I get hooked off stage.
Hi there, echoing everyone. Thanks very much. I'm just curious your opinion. Obviously, a lot of the banks seem to be embracing technology now. Certainly on the digital front, seems to have tilted quite quickly in that direction. If you're looking out sort of 5 years, and I know you used the example of Google, Amazon, et cetera, but what do you think the competitive landscape for the Canadian banks looks like as they all embrace sort of a similar, seems to be a similar direction today?
In my opinion, it's changing their monetization model. And this is just purely my opinion. I think it's going to go, traditionally we know there's bank charges, interest, and all that great stuff. I think we're going to be moving to a more service ad. I can see a world, for example, when we go buy a house, wouldn't it be great to get pre-approved, seen a house, like it, hit a button, get a mortgage, it knows when my moving date is, suggests movers, moves my utilities all over by a click of a button. And we make money by offering that concierge service versus just, the traditional monetizations before. I see if the financial institutions want to compete, I think they got to be more service oriented and look at, not competing just by interest rates and percentages, because me as a consumer, I only care to an extent. But if you make all those, most tense and scary moments in my transactional life more effort-free, the more value add I'm going to get and the more customers we're going to attract.
David, thank you very much. That was a fantastic talk, inspiring. So I just want to thank you for coming. So we have about a 10-minute break now. There's concessions over at the back of the office there. So the next talk is going to start around 11:20. So maybe a little bit more than 10 minutes at this point, but be sure to join us back at 11:20. Thank you.
away.